Not every crime leaves fingerprints. Some are born in code. Welcome to truecrime.exe, where fiction feels far too real.
Good evening. Before we begin, a quick note. This story is inspired by real conditions and case dynamics found in rural America. Family feuds, custody disputes, careful planning. But all names, locations, and specific sequences here are fictionalized for narrative clarity. If you enjoy long-form, no-jump-scare true crime, please consider subscribing and tapping like. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing the map light up. Headphones on, lights low. Let's start at the first door. At 6:58 a.m., a phone line clicks open. You can hear a woman breathing through her hands as if warmth could protect her from what she has already seen. "There's blood," she says. "It's all over the house. My brother-in-law is in the bedroom. He's not moving. Please, just send someone. Now." "Mom, are you safe?" the dispatcher asks. "Are you inside?" "I drove over to feed the animals," she says, voice shaking. "It looks like they're dead." The county is Ashbrook. The road is Raven Hollow. 3 trailers and a gravel loop tucked into the trees. The dogs that bark at every stranger are not barking. House 1 sits under a sickle of shade, aluminum siding dulled to the color of old coins. Inside the living room lies Christopher Mason, 42. Broad shoulders, grease under the nails. The kind of man who can fix a starter motor and a fence on the same afternoon. He is on his side, as if someone tried to fold sleep back over him like a blanket. Later, forensics will call it close range. They will count 9 shots. 5 to head and face, 3 to the torso, 1 across the arm. The kind of wound a body collects when instinct reaches for life even as it slips away. Down the small hallway, in a room that smells like laundry powder and cedar chips, lies Gary, Christopher's cousin, 2 to the temple. A 3rd so close to the skin it leaves a dark ring. He may never have woken. Or if he did, he didn't wake for long. On the porch, 2 pit bulls sit side by side, eyes steady. Dogs that usually announce a mail truck like a parade. Say nothing. Outside, a pickup crunches gravel. It's Bobby Lane, sister-in-law to the family, shaking so hard it turns keys into marbles. She calls her brother. He doesn't answer. She dials 911. The county begins to move. House 2 is 15 steps away across a path of flattened crabgrass. Inside, Frankie Mason, Christopher's eldest, and Hannah Gilly, his fiancée. Between them, a 4-month-old baby, warm in a universe gone cold. On the carpet by the bed, their 3-year-old sleeps, one hand wrapped around a toy sword that is really a stuffed animal, as if courage could be stitched. Frankie takes 3 to the head and face. Hannah, 1 through the eye, and 4 more to make certain morning never finds her again. Whoever came here knew exactly what they meant to do. They did not hurry. They did not leave a mess they didn't intend. In the kitchen, a white mug waits with a teaspoon inside. Sugar has crystallized along the rim. It never had time to dissolve. House 3 belongs to Dana Mason, Christopher's ex-wife. She lives there with Chris Jr., 16, and Hannah Mae, 19, 4 days postpartum. The narrow hallway smells like disinfectant, baby powder, and gasoline. It is a smell you never forget once your body has filed it away. Dana, 5 to the head, 2 so close the skin cannot decide if it is wound or stamp. Chris Jr., 2 from above, sharp entries that suggest a shooter who knew exactly where he was standing and how quickly the room would end. Hannah Mae, 2 fatal shots where the bedding still smells like a nursery. The newborn is alive, mouth working in small searching rhythms. A tiny miracle in the middle of a scene that used up the word unthinkable and kept going. Sophia, Hannah's 2-year-old, is safe. She spent the night with her father elsewhere. No ledger can account for that. In Ashbrook, they say, some children get tucked into God's pocket. Sometimes that is the only explanation any of us can carry. By mid-morning, a cousin worries about Kenneth Mason, Christopher's brother, who lives 5 miles down a different road. He calls. No answer. He drives, flanked by 2 friends who don't speak much when they're scared. Kenneth's door is unlocked. He is in bed, 1 shot, close, straight through the eye. His shoes are neatly beside the bed. A folded shirt waits on a chair for a morning that never arrived. 8 dead. 3 small children intentionally left alive. 4 homes, 1 family, dismantled the way a mechanic can take apart an engine and return the pieces to the tray. Investigators arrive to find something that feels like a locked room puzzle staged across a landscape. There are no shell casings. Neighbors report no gunshots. The cell phones belonging to the adults are gone. Wallets, televisions, jewelry, untouched. Even the dogs stay quiet. They knew the visitor, one deputy says, and nobody tells him to stop guessing, because in the absence of answers, guesses are how a heart keeps moving. Forensics will talk about quiet firearms, .22 caliber and suppressors, and devices that catch spent casings before they bounce across linoleum. They will talk about someone who knows the exact shape of a room in the dark. They will say the words careful and deliberate, and the room will get smaller every time they speak. Rumors move faster than official reports. Someone mentions a grow room behind a barn, a string of gamecocks that don't look like pets. Someone else says cartel, then cornbread mafia, then a name borrowed from a documentary, and dragged across a county line like proof. But the pieces at Raven Hollow don't look like an army arriving from a highway. They look like family, standing ankle deep in its own shadow. 2 names matter in Ashbrook, the Masons and the Whitakers. Jake Whitaker, son of Billy Whitaker, meets Hannah Mae Mason at the Ashbrook County Fair. She is 13. He is almost 18. It starts with baby rabbits in a wire pen and a boy who speaks quietly, as if volume could make him guilty. Chris Mason Sr., Hannah's father, allows the relationship, with conditions. Never alone, always a chaperone. On paper, it reads like caution. In practice, it becomes a rope. 2 families with different rules, tied together by a baby girl named Sophia. Time moves, love sours, arguments repeat. The kind of control that calls itself care tightens around Hannah's life until the room feels smaller than her breath. Then one day, in a private post she believes is safe, Hannah writes what she feels. She will never give Sophia up, not to Jake, not to his family, even if it costs her life. She does not know Angela Whitaker, Jake's mother, can read her messages. Hannah meets another man. The relationship is short. It ends in a second pregnancy. To the Whitakers, this is not just heartbreak. It is a problem. In a house where choices happen at a kitchen table and are called votes, the numbers begin to add up. There is a night when the Whitakers sit at that table, Billy at the head, Jake and George on either side, Angela with a notepad. Family sounds like ceremony until it isn't. Who has to be gone? Billy asks quietly. For Sophia to stay. It is not a sudden question. It has been circling the room for months. What follows is the kind of preparation that looks ordinary until you line the receipts up side by side. The kind of practice you only recognize when you find the trees later and count the scars in their bark. The kind of paperwork that looks like protection until you measure the signature and learn how hard someone tried to be someone else. We will not detail the shopping list. It is enough to say this: care went into what happened, the kind of care you hope people reserve for good things. 4 days after Hannah Mae comes home from the hospital, Sophia goes to stay with the Whitakers for a couple of nights. At the Mason trailers, dinner knives are drying on a towel. Billy messages Chris Mason Sr. about a job. It is a word that covers many sins in a county that prefers verbs. When Billy steps into the first trailer, Jake and George wait at the tree line in a truck whose engine idles the way grief does. Low, constant, almost polite. What follows is a walk you don't learn, but become. Home to home, door to door, closed doors, open triggers. Pause at a crib and do not touch the child. Drive 5 miles. Stop at Kenneth's. 1 shot. 1 more light removed from the county's night. At 2:35 a.m., a tricycle driver on a road with a different name, there is always a different name, sees 2 headlamps flare and then vanish. He wonders if he imagined it. Later, it will become a 3-line paragraph in a report. Sometimes that is what a life's work looks like. After the night comes the cleanup, the quiet choreography of how a crime disappears. A vehicle is parked where it doesn't usually sit. Clothing vanishes in a burn barrel that used to smoke only leaves. A lake receives something heavy and does not splash loudly enough to be remembered. Someone throws away floor mats. Someone else gathers phones in a plastic bag like a strange harvest. And in front of neighbors, a family does the performance everyone expects. Shock, sadness, a refusal to understand. Then the Whitakers move to Alaska. Alaska is the kind of word that swallows conversation. You say it when you want to end a topic without sounding like you're ending it. The map looks far enough away to feel like an answer. A year later, the Whitakers come back. Jake has a new wife. The whole clan goes to work at a local trucking company. They wave at people who used to avoid them. They show up where they didn't before. Sometimes normal is a disguise people sew together out of daylight and repetition. And then, 2 women orbiting the household leave. One steps back into her mother's arms. The other moves in with a cousin 2 counties over. They take memories with them. They talk. Maybe to family. Maybe to a friend. Maybe to someone who knows how to listen without trying to fix the ending. After that, the case moves. Investigators hide recorders in work trucks. They tap phones. They talk to people in small rooms with square lights. They collect handwriting that looks too much like Hannah Mae's to be hers. In a stand of trees behind the Whitaker property, they find burned fragments of something that once made a firearm quiet. When the press conference comes, it arrives with all the choreography of government. A seal on a blue curtain. A podium that smells like furniture polish. Camera shutters like insects. Today is that day, the official says. The names are George Billy, Whitaker III, Angela Whitaker, George Whitaker IV, Edward Jake Whitaker. Charges: multiple counts of aggravated murder, conspiracy, forgery, obstruction. Words with edges arranged in a line. 2 years into pre-trial custody, Jake Whitaker speaks. Not because truth is beautiful, because death is a lever and someone offered him a different weight to hold. He confesses. He says he personally pulled the trigger 5 times. The rest, his father, his brother. His mother did not go to the scenes, he says, but she was central to planning, to covering, to paperwork that would have handed a child to a family that had just taken a night from a county. Evidence begins to stand up and answer to its name. Messages from that night line up with a meeting at a kitchen table. Fragments found in the woods match the kind of things quiet guns wear. A lake gives up something heavy, and inside it is metal that speaks the way only metal speaks in a lab. Receipts align with a calendar nobody wants to own. A signature repeats until it looks too perfect to be anyone's real hand. Prosecutors map the night in minutes. Detectives in ash-colored suits point at photos pinned to foam board. A jury watches rumor become transcript. The sentences are long and clean. Jake Whitaker, life in prison, with parole eligibility, after 32 years, in exchange for a full confession and testimony. No death penalty. Angela Whitaker, 30 years for conspiracy and cover. George Whitaker IV, 8 consecutive life terms without parole. He went to trial, refused to plead, and the law answered without any softening at the edges. George Billy Whitaker III, the patriarch, faces his own day under lights. In some counties, they call that justice. In others, they call it a start. Each sentence is a period that wants to be a stop sign. In Ashbrook, stops are suggestions. Grief has its own intersections. If you want to understand why the story hangs together, look at the children. Children are the hinge on which the night turns. The spared children fit a motive, not mercy. The quiet weapons and missing shells fit the method, not magic. The phones that vanished suggest someone wanted to carry the night away in their pocket. The move to Alaska, the return, the attempt at normal. That's choreography, not coincidence. There were 3 children alive at sunrise who did not know they were supposed to die. One of them carries the name Sophia like a candle in a jar. One day she will learn that people wanted her so badly they killed everything around her. And other people wanted her so badly they hid her for one night in a safer room. In Ashbrook, they say, you dose the truth. You spoon it out in ways a child can carry. You don't drown them in it. You do not build a life out of a tidal wave. A year later, I go back to Raven Hollow. Gravel remembers every tire. Bobby Lane stands on a porch, beneath a newly installed motion light. I learned to turn the light on before I open a door, she says. She tells me the dogs are good animals. They do their jobs, she says, and her mouth tries to smile. That night, maybe they did it differently. In the hallway, a calendar shows St. Michael with a sword. A small rosary hangs beside it, beads smoothed by fingers that learned to pray after they learned to hold. On the living room carpet, toy cars sit in a neat row, all facing the same direction. A traffic jam waiting for a hand that will never come back to push. This is a county of work boots and straight talk. People wear justice like denim, every day, not only in a courtroom. They hammer things into shape because that is how you keep a place standing. This was not an army from a highway. It was a kitchen table. It was not random. It was a custody war fought with terrible weapons. The dogs did not announce a stranger. They recognized a habit. The children were spared not by compassion, but by a plan. If the law can write a lesson from all this, it is both simple and impossible. In places where family is a fortress, it can also be a siege. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. If you like the quieter kind of true crime, patient, careful, sleep-friendly, subscribe and tap like so more people can find it. And before we close, Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I never get tired of that map. Back at the end of the gravel loop, 3 motion lights blink when the wind forgets itself. A no trespassing sign uses more exclamation points than an editor would allow. In the kitchen, a kettle hums. When the door closes, there's only the fridge and your own breath. If I was superstitious, I'd say the house breathes with the ones who aren't here. I'm not. That's just wood remembering a voice. Ashbrook learned to live with the words never again, and also, somehow, again. Nails go back in holes, cups on hooks, school bags by the door. What doesn't come back is the trust that night is only night. If you ask me for one sentence, one you can say out loud and not feel like you're lying, it's this: someone planned not to lose a child, and so they lost everything else. Sleep safe.
Case closed. Archived in the synthetic vault. If you dare to return, the next file awaits. truecrime.exe. The line between fiction and fear.